Residents of a small Texas border town are feeling rather unsafe, not as a result of undocumented immigrants, but after members of the far right, calling themselves God's Army, showed up to protest Biden's immigration policies. According to NBC News, over the weekend there was a convoy of vehicles that they had hoped would gather about 700,000 strong. Well, let's just say they did not reach those numbers. In fact, it was claimed that they numbered about 200 as they visited some border hotspots. NBC News said they observed about 100 vehicles on Sunday when they had come to the small town of Eagles Pass. Eagles Pass, of course, is where the big showdown between Joe Biden, the Supreme Court, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott when it comes to access to the border. Essentially, it's what it is. I mean, Abbott and the Texas National Guard have put up all of this razor wire fencing, which is not allowing Border Patrol agents to actually go and do their job, which is to patrol the border, apprehend migrants, do rescues of people who are drowning, or even retrieve bodies of those who had drowned or died when crossing the border. So, yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Now, that said, there was a group of people of this God's Army, one which was led by a man on horseback waving the Christian flag, a white banner with a blue square and a red cross in its upper left corner. Ah, yes, because nothing says patriotism like flying a Christian flag in the United States. Okay, that's weird. Now, when they showed up, of course, residents did not give them a warm welcome. There were people that were counter-protesting. Generally, the protests were peaceful. At least you got to give them that. But nonetheless, you had people there in this counter demonstration that were saying, these people are making me very, very uncomfortable. Talking about the right wing. Here's one of them.
I've always felt very safe here. So I would say it's a good place to raise your children. Today, downtown was the first day that I felt unsafe just walking down the street in broad daylight.
Gee, I don't know why. I don't know why you would feel unsafe. I mean, around a bunch of armed right-wing jagoffs calling themselves the Army of God. Oh wait, yeah, that's a perfect place to feel unsafe. Look, speaking about religion here, you might have noticed some of the signs these people had that reference religion and how hate is actually not supposed to be part of the religion especially when it comes to immigrants. In fact, Paget, a pastor and the executive director of Vote Common Good, was at the ranch in Eagle Pass over the weekend. He said, "When we hear people like this trucker brigade say that they're the army of God and they're espousing things that sound like Christian nationalist ideals, that puts a target on places like Eagles Pass." Yes. And again, that's one of the problems here. There's so much national attention now on Eagles Pass, and you have a lot of people that might be mistaken to think, well, the people in Eagles Pass support this stuff, support what Abbott is doing, and support a crackdown on immigration and things like that, when in reality, they're actually pretty uncomfortable with what's going on. But getting back to the Christian nationalists, right? Look, the whole point of Christian nationalism is to set up a religious theocracy in this country. It just happens to be a Christian theocracy, but a theocracy is a theocracy, and that is not welcome in this country. That is not how this country should be run. It should be a secular democracy. Now, that said, Christian nationalists, they want to set up this theocracy, right? Based loosely on the Bible, and I say loosely because they like to cherry pick things, okay? For example, they don't really want to treat the immigrant as they would treat their own. Bible is very clear on immigration and how you should welcome the immigrant and treat them as if, again, they are your own, that they're guests, and to welcome them in, okay? Now, Paget also pointed out how these people, this God's Army, can't really call themselves patriots either. Quote, A lot of people are here to say that the governor shouldn't listen to federal law. Now, that sounds a little bit like an insurrection. Yep. I mean, that's exactly what they want to do. I mean, you have people in Texas that are now calling about secession, right? They're talking about this, talking about breaking away from the United States. And then, like, we're big, giant patriots. We love America. We can't wait to leave it. Wait, that's not patriotism. Okay. Now, there's more. 29-year-old resident Marco Castillo described this as nothing more than a show. He said that if this group, these right-wingers, really cared, then they would have been there back in December when border crossings were actually much higher than they are now. He asked, what is all this for? And then answered his own question by saying, for show. And he added that he had seen Dr. Phil's helicopters in the sky and was like, it's for show. Show. That's it. He also says that there's no need for Abbott's enforcement operation, dubbed Operation Lone Star, to even be in Eagle Pass. In fact, he said, look what they brought. And just all of this negative attention and now these weirdo, armed right-wingers. But this is kind of what happens whenever there's a right-wing movement or convoy. They come in and they actually menace the people that are living there. It's not the migrants that are menacing people. It's the armed right-wingers. In fact, Abbott himself has even pissed off the community by literally taking over a public park to use as a command center for his Operation Lone Star. Residents are no longer able to even access the park. They have to have permission from the government. Well, that's their park. They funded it. Doesn't matter, though. Now, Abbott says, I'm going to use eminent domain. I'm going to use a big government to come take over public land and make it private so that I can do this ridiculous operation, which is nothing more than just a show. In fact, Ricardo Calderon, writing for the Eagle Pass Business Journal, back in August of last year, before this was all national news, wrote, residents have expressed concern over the bulldozing of an island in the Rio Grande and construction of a security post in its place, the placement of military-grade concertina wiring along the banks of the Rio Grande and inside the river, the use of metal storage containers on the riverbank, the installation of a floating buoy barrier in the Rio Grande, damage to public and private properties, and the militarization of Eagle Pass into a quote-unquote war zone. Many residents are genuinely concerned that all these controversial border security measures are drawing unwanted national and international attention to the once peaceful and tranquil community that may potentially affect the health and safety of its citizens. And there it is. People of Eagles Pass, they're not happy with the far right. Look, this is nothing more than a political ploy by Greg Abbott and national Republicans to not only appeal to racists in non-border states, okay? And this is really what I've noticed. The people that are most vociferously against immigration and are the most riled up by migrants are like people in like Oklahoma, non-border states. They're just irrationally like unhinged when it comes to the idea of, we've got people, we got immigrants that are coming in. Dude, you're not even on the border. You're not even being affected at all, okay? Like, there are issues with immigrants, and not being able to take care of them, right? Not being able to find housing for them, not having enough money to, feed them, and to have immigration judges be able to decide their asylum claims. There's a huge backlog on that, and that's for the federal government to take care of. And of course, congressional Republicans, they don't want anybody to do anything about immigration because they like the status quo, and because the status quo they can use as a political ploy to rile up right-wingers. And that's it, by perpetuating these problems. Look, Abbott, what he's doing is trying to raise his own profile. And now he's doing all this razor wire because, first of all, razor wire is incredibly dangerous, right? It's designed to tear clothing and flesh, okay? Now, he knows that it's not going to be a deterrent, okay? What he wants there is to see how many people get maimed and killed trying to cross it. That's it. It's about the cruelty. And then, of course, when he says, well, look at all that razor wire I put up. I'm doing something. Please reelect me. When in reality, he might be doing something, but he's doing all the wrong things and is making our immigration even more inhumane than it already is. And look, there are border communities that are sick of what they're doing, sick of what the right wing, what Republicans are trying to do in immigration. They want legal immigration. They want people to have the ability to come over and become American citizens and actually follow the American dream and experience it. And yes, they do want border security. Of course, everybody does. But not in the way that Republicans are doing it, which is just to make it so that it's so, inhumane and horrible for people to come in that you're going to discourage pretty much any immigration at this point. And they're shooting themselves in the foot and this country in the foot because when it comes down to it, immigration is a huge economic boom to our country and to our culture.